welcome to this brand new episode of the She Scales podcast, where today I'm super excited to welcome in a special guest. Today on the podcast, I'm bringing in someone that I met about a year ago, I'd say, inside one of my masterminds. And so we'll get into the story of how we met, but I first want to introduce you to not only an incredible special guest, but our first male guest on the She Scales podcast.
I can't believe
Welcome, Kevin Whelan.
Well, thank you, and sorry for interrupting you, but I was too excited because I feel remarkably privileged, really, because so often when I'm trying to share wealth messages, and I think wealth, I'm sure you would agree, is universal. It should apply to, everybody. But so often I find women get behind the eight ball on this, and there's not enough wisdom being shared, and I think I haven't met too many females out there that I think are sharing the same message. So I think hats off to you, quite frankly, for being willing to share what I hope will be valuable lessons that anybody can apply.
Absolutely. For our listeners, just before we got on and hit record on this, Kevin said to me, I've had a look through your podcast and I haven't seen any other men on there. How come you're inviting me on? And as I said to him, and I'm saying to you guys, when it comes to sharing value, sharing expertise, you guys on here already know that when I bring on experts, I already know that they come with a high level of expertise, that they're willing to share a high level of wisdom with you. We're not just getting any old wishy-washy person here. We want to share the good stuff to help you scale your business, increase your wealth, make more money, keep more money. And so I'm not about capping who I bring onto the podcast if it means that I can share even more wisdom with you guys and we all get to benefit from it. And so hence why I invited Kevin as our first male guest. I'm really excited. Kevin is a wealth building mentor. I came across him inside my mastermind. Now you guys will know that I'm inside a mastermind, two masterminds. One of them is sort of for wealth building, but it focuses specifically on property investing. We talk a little bit about other ways of wealth building, but there's a big focus on property. And so the way that I met Kevin was he came to do a guest masterclass inside this mastermind. So I'd say this was about last summer, maybe, give or take.
Feels right.
Yeah. And then me being the keen bee, so Kevin said, I've brought my book with me. Who would like a copy? And, the high achiever keen bee practically ran to the front of the room to make sure I got my copy. Read that book, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. It's called The Wealth Code. Very good book and a nice, easy read for people who are just trying to understand some of the more technical terms and what that looks like in a real life story. And after the mastermind, me and Kevin had a catch up about our complementary skill sets and how we're helping not just women, but people to be able to make more money and keep more money and grow that money over time. And that's where I really got to understand Kevin on a more personal level. And so really excited to introduce him to you guys so that you can get to see his knowledge and also how much he can bring to the world or already is bringing to the world. And especially, as he's touched on in his intro there's a lot of information that either women typically don't know or don't know enough about. And it might be because we've not had access to that sort of information, or we don't know who has access to that sort of information. And so really excited to get into this chat. Thank you for joining me, Kevin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you very much. And looking forward to seeing where this goes. And
Indeed.
I love your effervescence and your energy. And I'm sure the fuel for that and the bubbles of that will keep this going, for a decent length of time. And I'm looking forward to sharing whatever I can that would be an insight, a distinction, a way of looking at things that is slightly different to perhaps what people are taught traditionally. And
Indeed.
I think creativity, certainly when it comes to finance, and I definitely resonate with your kind of overriding statement there of making more money, keeping more money, and you couldn't be, more accurate than that. I do look at the wisdom expression, I'm an aged guy now, I've been around.
What do you mean, Kevin?
I've got the wrinkles to prove it. My focus these days is transferring wealth. So the ability to provide the next generation with the wisdom to become wealth stewards, not wealth spenders.
Mm.
So custodianship rather than consuming is the
Yes.
key. So I spend more time doing that, but I couldn't possibly qualify myself to do that unless I'd done all the building work
Mm-hmm.
myself and helped thousands of other people build to the point where the focus is the legacy no longer needed to focus on themselves because they're set for life and they want the next generation and generations to come to be set
Yes.
for life. It's interesting. You made me laugh a little bit, as you always do. You've got a picture of yourself there.
I
Um, I don't know, is this being videoed as well as being?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, okay, cool. So people will be able to see that. And I have an imagination myself for my own
Mhm.
family that in 150 years' time, there'll be a portrait on the wall, and that portrait will be me.
I love this.
My children and my grandchildren will be going, cheers, Kev, you know,
Yes.
and click a glass of something that suits them, bearing in mind my middle son drinks water and water only. But a glass of water is fine, and celebrate the fact that I've done my best to equip them with knowledge, with wisdom, but also with wherewithal. So we want to be able to share all of that too, because some of your listeners, I guess, will be young and on the building stage in their life, and maybe some will be a little older and thinking about their next generation. And nobody's teaching any of this stuff at school, college,
Yeah.
university, or workplace. So you need a good place to find lessons. Otherwise, social media will take over, and that's not a good place to rely on information.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think we're in a really pivotal time with things changing so quickly. And so, regardless of what age you're at, whether you're new to your investing and building wealth journey, today is the best day to start, regardless of where you're
Right.
at. But even if you're on your wealth building journey, given how much is changing and how quickly, I just think there's not enough information. Like the more that you can learn, the better equipped you're going to be in this rapidly changing world. So, Kevin, take us back. How did you get into wealth building?
Well, I think there's a common factor I think with wealth building that works. People get derailed all the time, and the most common fact that I look for is a really really strong reason why.
Yeah.
What is the purpose behind what you're trying to do? Now, the reason I say that is my purpose really stems from the early death of my father. Not that this is a tragedy story or a rags to riches. There's nothing here other than fact. And he had a good business, His name was John, and he had a business. He was worked on the North Sea oil rigs, way
Oh,
back
wow.
in the 70s and 80s. And he used to bring in workers from the Newcastle shipyard, Newcastle upon Tyne, up to the 40s, and he was acting as an agent for Shell and BP. And money was starting to
Yeah, yeah.
roll in. He was very proud in his own way that he'd had a business, and unfortunately, oh, by the way, that's where my accent is from, in case people are trying to place it. So it's a
Ah.
Geordie accent softened by 30 odd years in London. So there's a twang in there somewhere, and some people try and place it and think I'm from South Africa or Wales or Ireland or somewhere. Unfortunately, though, one day in 1985, he was 46 years of age and he collapsed and died on the rig.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now, the consequence of that, other than the tragedy of a personal loss in a family, was there was no business succession plan,
Yeah,
right? When he died, the business died. Unfortunately, he didn't get around to making a will, didn't have any life assurance to pay off the mortgage. And so all the good intentions, which I knew were there, came to naught when the family went backwards instead of going forwards. And sort of, that lesson was probably deeply subconscious for me at the time.
yeah. Mm.
I was in my early 20s and my degree is economics. And originally I wanted to be an economist. That was, working for a big bank. That was my thoughts when I was in my early 20s. But then I kind of wrestled with it a little and thought, well, if I save from a salary that I could get, a decent salary, as a smart person, I don't think I'm going to be wealthy by the time I'm 45, which is
Mm.
46. But So I resolved for myself, I had to be wealthy by 45. I didn't know what it meant, but there was like a personal ignition. So
Yeah, yeah.
you need to be financially independent by 45 because I made that decision when I was getting married I got married in 89 and I decided not to trade time for money. I
Yeah.
had to work to build and own things.
Yeah.
The ownership of those things turned into money, which
Yeah.
would support me if I lived. Obviously, I'm way past 45. Would support my
No, you're not.
and you need to go to Specsavers, love, and and three grown-up kids that I've got now plus grandkids. So, which of course I didn't know about at the time, but I knew I was going to be a family man. And so I set myself on a path to take a risk with my wife, almost, blessing, which is, well, if you're going to do it, you do it now,
Yeah.
before we get big mortgages, school fees, and all the usual trappings that come
Yeah.
with the complexity of people building careers. So I did that. And so I started off basically knocking on doors in Croydon. Uh,
No way.
I did, yeah. I tell you, I've done some weird things in my life to build.
Old school door-to-door sales. It
I've
builds
had,
resilience.
well, I had to do that. Getting council house tenants to buy their property under the right to buy, which is in the
Mm.
1980s, saying if you decided you want to buy instead of paying rent for the rest of your life, then I can arrange a mortgage for you that would enable you do that.
Yeah.
Are you interested in that? And I know how you could do that. And apart from a few people who, you know, some big guys wearing string vests and tattoos kicked me out the door.
I
So I had to learn to sprint pretty well.
was going to
But
say Croydon is a choice area.
well, yeah, it
I
was
bet it's
Tooting.
changed a lot since the 80s as well.
Well, yeah, well now it's I was in Tooting and Mitcham.
Ah,
Now that's well-to-do area, of course. And anyway, the point is, I thought I had to do something for myself. And I remember with some pride as I look back, I earned in 1989 £67,100.
wow.
I'm like, I can do this.
Wow.
Right? So now I know I can do it. How do I build it? And what I noticed with other people doing similar work, and I was working with Legal and General at the time, is they never had PAs. I'm crap at admin. That's why I've got two people sorting my life out, right? And you mentioned that before we came on. And so I was terrible at it. So I had to get a PA. So I got a PA and I thought, actually, if I got another one, I could probably get a bit of other people's income by doing admin. So I did that. And then that worked and I had about 4 or 5 people working with me. And then I sort of branched out from there onto my own thing. And I had a plan, which I think is still valid today, and I've actually seen people pick it up, which is the concept of being completely mortgage free.
hmm
So while I don't think that's important, I think it was an outcome that I had in mind for myself. I paid my own mortgage off in 7 years flat, which is, like a great plan.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I wrote a book, How to Do It.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's called Save a Fortune, How to Completely Eliminate Your Mortgage Loan and Credit Loans and Credit Cards Fast. It's
Ah.
fast. It's an accelerated way to do it. And I found that other mortgage brokers and people doing that gravitated towards that because for the first time ever, I was able to charge clients a fee, an ongoing fee, for saying, we don't do mortgages here, we eliminate them.
Mm.
I will stick with you until your mortgage is gone. Would you like to be mortgage free and save yourself £325,000 in interest or whatever the interest
Yeah.
added up to when people just simply blindly pay it? And so I built a little kind of mini license for that, and I still have now under license 12 people.
So
Some of
how
them,
long would they be signing up to you for? Is it like a subscription of a few
yeah,
years kind of thing?
this was in the early 90s.
This is the way before like memberships and subscriptions.
Oh yeah, way before, and there was no internet, right? So there was no method of doing anything. Anyway, that business got sold. under license to a big company. And what's interesting for me, and I think this is valuable for your She Scales members, is the importance of recognizing and creating IP on your way
Mm.
in your lives and start to chart it. Intellectual property, sorry. And the intellectual property has made me 60 grand a year for 25 years.
Nice.
I still get it.
Nice little nest egg.
Yeah. And while I can't live on it, it's still a good nest egg to have that comes in, comes in, comes in, comes in. I don't do anything at all. Not one single thing do I do in order for that money to come in.
Wow.
And I thought, what did I just do there?
Yeah.
So there was no book, there was no guide, there was no mentor to follow. For much of this was trial and error. So it took me 15 years to become financially independent. Now anybody could do it in 5.
Mm.
Because there's so much more information if it's well acted upon and if it's accurately detailed to that individual person. I think there's no one single recipe for wealth success. I think it's trying to work. Whoops.
So sorry. I have
I
no
lost you
idea where I
there.
just went. I got kicked off, so I'll cut that little bit out the middle. Do you remember the last sentence that you were on that you could get back into?
Sort of. There's no single recipe for success. It's really looking at what I call being financially fit. 3 very simple things you could ask yourself. Other than the reason why, what's the powerful reason why that would keep you going when trials and tribulations set in, whatever they would be, stock market crashes, COVID, you name it. Uh, you won't have seen as many of those as I've seen, but there's always something around the corner. So
Mm.
you need to be robust and resolute in your plan. But it's being financially fit. So F stands for, what do you do? A stock take of what your finances are now.
Yeah.
What have you got in your life now that could be used, improved, made better, made stronger, make it more money, make it pay less tax? What have you got? Don't worry about the what to do, just do
Yeah.
the stock take. The I is, what are you interested in? And we'll come back to, there's only 7 ways to build wealth. So it's quite scientific and therefore quite easy to teach. And because there are only 7, then you have to determine which of the 7 or which combination, like building Lego bricks,
Yeah.
which of the combination works for you. And going back to Lego bricks for a second, we're buying lots of Lego for my grandson, but here's a thought, right, which is interesting. If you asked, the mums in your community, if you had 100 kids in a room
Yeah.
and you just filled the floor with Lego, and they all got excited and all that energy went up, and you said, can you build me a house? You get 100 different houses
Yeah.
with different combinations of colors and bricks. And so it is with wealth building. And I think when people look for a magic bullet, the problem is there is not one. You have to look at the 7 and determine the I, which is which one or 2. I always suggest 2 is of interest to you, which has
Yeah.
got the deepest interest. Which are you most likely to be able to feel good about, not feel pained about?
Yeah.
If you ask someone, how do you feel about the stock market? If you go, ooh, that they're interested enough to go, they're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to determine that for yourself, or with guidance. And T is, how much time are you willing to dedicate to this?
Yeah.
Because wealth building is a process. it's a bit like farming in many respects. You've got to plant it, but you can't just keep picking it up and see how it's going. You've got to do the work and
Yeah, yeah.
sure. And what you're building over time is a forest of wealth trees, let's say,
Yeah, yeah.
where you pick the fruit and the fruit just keeps falling. And you
That's it.
strategically put your basket underneath and you collect it. But you have to do the work,
Yes.
and that takes time. Now, for most people, the time they take is 35 to 40 years because they have a job, they save some money, they hope the pension's going to work,
Mm.
and you know, that's it. And we've got more 70-year-olds going back to work than ever before because they can't make that work.
Yeah,
Stock market's too volatile. They're not saving enough money after all the taxes they're paying because they don't have a tax strategy. They just pay it. There's no proactive plan to reduce tax. And there's so many ways to reduce
yeah.
tax. So the consequence then, when you look at being financially fit and have somebody help you with that or a bit of self-introspection, you can look at that and go, well, okay, once I understand the seven, so maybe you could ask me about that, which of those seven would be the right combination for me? And for me, when I started, it was intellectual property, which I didn't even know it was called that.
Yeah.
I wrote a book and that helped me sell a business. Oh, I've got a business.
Mm.
So, and I began to think about business in a different way. So instead of a business trading time for money, but just in a different wrapper,
Yeah.
how can I create a business or multiple businesses that create recurring income?
Yeah.
So the fundamental tenet of wealth builders does what it says on the tin. It helps people build wealth, protect it, pass it on. And if you build it, you have to understand recurring income. And
Yeah.
recurring income is the way that you own or control, because you can actually
Yeah.
sometimes control something, and generate an income from that, which becomes a flow. And while you
Hmm.
need to manage that flow because things will change and times will change, it's pretty much set. And if you can get multiple of those, two, three, four, then you become financially bulletproof. You create what I call a family wealth fortress. And we won't go into that because that's where I spend my time, with those people who've got that wealth built
Yeah, yeah.
about the next generation. And I notice you've got legacy very squarely in your ambitions and aspirations there. So,
Indeed.
so yeah, so I think what people don't have, I don't think, is a ready set formula for understanding the importance of recurring income.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even if they get it, well, what are the seven ways to create it? Because
Yeah.
despite the fact that I wrote a book on that one called The Seven Pillars of Wealth, uh,
Uh-huh.
and so I share that free with anybody because I think it's a good distinction to make. I haven't seen anybody give me number eight. I ask for
Mm.
it everywhere. So I'm going to put a challenge out. So
Yeah.
for you and your colleagues and your community, I'll share with you the seven. But if you can find number eight, and I accept it without debate, and I
Is
want
this a
to,
challenge or has number eight not been discovered yet? Or
it's not been discovered. It's not been discovered. So if you can help me find it and discover it for me, I will send you a fine case of champagne. And in addition to that, promote you on my podcast, which is called Wealth Talk, where we talk about wealth. And we
Right,
should,
game on.
yeah.
Let's go.
And so let's get number eight. And people have tried, but when I analyze it, it's not really an asset. It's just a slight subset of the assets that I've already created.
How long ago did you create these?
2010. I
Okay.
think I think after the credit crunch,
Yeah.
2008. So I became there's a mid story. So I became a qualified IFA in 2006 after I'd sold the mortgage side and thought, well, yeah, I think I'm good at this. I'll use my brain to learn more,
Yeah.
which I did. So I became a qualified IFA. And then in 2008, I realized I've got good intentions for people here, but I
Yeah.
can't stop their money falling 30, 40%.
Yeah,
I can't do it. I can't stop it. So what am I doing wrong? And I realized what I was doing wrong was too many of the eggs that I was learning about were in the stock market basket.
yeah. Ah.
That's too risky a place. So hint, that is one of the assets. And the challenge is most people put their wealth there without realizing it doesn't create recurring income. There really isn't any automated compounding.
Mm.
Can't get to retirement and it will predictably give you income because the market's still going to go up, the market's still going to go down. So you get old and you're cracking eggs out of your basket to live and
Hmm.
get a sudden downturn
Yeah.
called sequencing risk, which is a technical term we use. When you're in the market and all of a sudden you're relying on it and it crashes, you don't have the time for recovery.
Yeah.
You're going to be spending your money or tightening that belt so tightly that it's going to squash all of your joy. So I thought, I need to teach something better than this, the stock market, and then I started to think more deeply about it. So that's when I came up with what I call the seven
Mm.
pillars of wealth.
And that's why you encourage people to have more than one, is so that you're not fully reliant on any one. You've not built a really tall tower on a, small piece of land. You're going wide and diversification.
Well, exactly right. Not diversification as it's taught in terms of having multiple stocks and multiple markets and so on,
Hmm.
having different assets. So
Yes.
completely different mindset. I can tell you've got it. And why don't I share what they are? And
Let's
then,
get into it. What are your seven pillars of wealth?
yeah. So I started off by thinking, well, what do people do without any help at all? What are they automatically doing?
Yeah.
And they've got a home they live in. But a home that takes money out of your bank account is a liability. A home that puts money in your bank account is an asset.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need to turn your home into an asset. I'm not, but I'm saying it could be. So it's possible to turn your home or the space around it into some form of income stream. Now,
Yeah.
you can choose any asset and include it in your portfolio of assets, or you can exclude it. But
Hmm.
the act of choosing is a decision. And most people just live in a house, but they end up using the home when they get old
Hmm.
because they downsize. So they're going to do it anyway. And I'm suggesting, well, think about it now. Think about, could you use your home as a source of income? Could you rent a room for 7.5 grand, tax free every year? Could you build an extension on it and work from home and claim some of that money back and make it a tax
Hmm.
deductible asset in your life? Could it be, I've got clients who use their home in the summer for summer students. I've got another client who rents out an annex near Heathrow for airline pilots.
Ah.
So or you've got people who live in Wimbledon, rent their houses out to tennis players. You get the idea.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying
It's an
you
option.
should, but most people don't consider it until it's
Mm.
too late. And if you were like me and you pay your mortgage off really fast, then you've got all the equity there. And if you wanted to, you could lend some of that equity yourself, buy an asset, let the asset pay yourself back, and then you build an asset from the equity. So we call that asset number one home capacity or home equity.
Hmm.
Huh? Most people have a home, so that's why I started there.
Yeah.
Number two is pension. Sorry, did you hit snooze then?
So
Most
I didn't. Interestingly, when you taught this in the room, because you had that same like intro of, I know everyone goes, huh. And maybe it's because I'm younger, but I was like, no, I'm really interested to know.
uh, well, pensions are the mainstay of people's retirement plans in the UK. And now everybody has one if they're employed because it's a matter of law.
Yeah.
So most people have got some kind of a pension, but they're not paying attention to the pension as an income generator. Now they're thinking of it being an income generator in the future. Well, I've already debunked that myth that the challenge is you've got to wait for 30 odd years and then
Yeah, yeah.
still going to be in a place of uncertainty. And wealth is about creating certainty in an uncertain world.
Oh, I like that.
It's a good soundbite, that one, isn't it?
Mm.
And you create certainty by multiple streams of recurring income that you build, protect, nurture, and pass on. That's what you do. But you've got to start. And I like your point. If you're going to start today. And start today by just wrestling with these thoughts. You can turn your pension into an asset because there are ways, not for everybody, that you can own and control an asset inside your pension, which is not subject to the volatilities of the stock market. For some people, they can buy commercial property. For others, they can lend money to themselves. You can even borrow money from your pension and buy property with it and enjoy the fruits of that property today. And these are complex things, and they're very poorly understood. But the concept of owning and controlling your pension is something we teach and have helped thousands and thousands of property,
Mm.
which is how we met you there,
Yeah.
to turn their pension, which is in a box called "Do Not Disturb till 65,"
Yeah.
into an income they can get in 6.5 months.
There we go.
That's an accelerator. So that's pension. So most people get that wrong. So, and by the way, 27 billion, right? Now that's a big number.
Mm.
That is the number estimated to be the amount of money floating around in the financial ether that people who've got pensions, they're not claiming them. Can you imagine that? 27 billion. Now when we work with people, we set them on a task to find their pensions.
Yeah, yeah.
And with some, it's 10 grand. That's still a good hourly rate. I mean, I don't like to work for hourly rates, but I'd spend an hour for 10 grand. That would be a decent rate. But some of our clients found 100 grand. And one client who just got lazy, knew he had a pension, he hadn't lost it. He just didn't really want to connect with it, just couldn't be bothered. And when we found out what it was worth to try and turn it into an asset, it was £255,000.
All of a sudden he's bothered.
Bothered.
Or she.
And he sent me a fine case of champagne. But the point is sometimes you need a nudge.
Yeah.
Sometimes to get out of I suppose the eddy of the whirlpool of life, which is
Yeah.
bending you around in the same circles. You need somebody to pull you out and go, hey, have a look at this. So
Yeah.
I'd encourage anybody, especially women, by the way, who often have had career breaks, family breaks. They're paid less in many cases as well. Let's not get too political. But nonetheless, there are pensions out there. They've
Yeah.
got somebody's name on, but they're not being captured. And so getting that money, learning how to own and control it. You don't have to become a pensions expert. You just have to recognize it's cash. Money in a pension is just money in cash. And then you
Yeah.
decide from the cash, do I want to put in the stock market? The only recurring income that's happening inside pensions is the money paid to the institutions.
Which is criminal.
But
Especially
you know
when
what?
that's money that you've already worked so hard for.
It's entirely legal. It's entirely legal. And most people are paying 2% of their money to the financial institutions for advice and guidance and management. And with AI, the cost of managing money is probably 0.2%, and people are paying 2.
Yeah.
So why would somebody with a little bit of intelligence and a little bit of forethought not look at that and say, why the hell would I deliberately pay 10 times more money than I
Right.
should? Why would I pay to somebody who's not really adding any value because the computer's doing all the work? They're not doing the work.
Hmm.
Why would I have someone paid before I get paid and they get recurring income and I don't?
Hmm.
Doesn't make any sense to me. Right.
Yeah.
And the
I'm glad
same,
that you brought this up because since you did the talk in this mastermind, it set my mum on a journey to go discover where
oh,
her pension had been because she's
amazing.
been at her current company for a while, but she'd had previous jobs and, before I came into the world, she'd been at other places. So she then went on a task. I think it had been on her to-do list for ages, but like you say, you just get into the run of the mill with life. And so she went to go and find all of her pensions. I think they were in 3 different places now, so she's been able to move it all, collate it, and is setting things up currently to be able to manage it better and just take ownership of it rather than just
Yeah.
leave it in the hands of somebody else.
Correct. And you can do it these days online. The more complex work of turning your money into property, you can't do that yourself. That you need help. So we've got expertise in doing that, and we've helped thousands of people do that. So if someone, and you need a limited company to do that. So if you've got a She Scales community member with a limited company and a pension,
Hmm.
actually, just as importantly, a family,
Yeah, yeah.
then they also need to know about inheritance tax, which is coming in April 27, where anybody who's got a pension and they die, up until now, the
Hmm.
pension is free of inheritance tax. But from April 2027, it's added to your estate and is taxed.
That's rude. That is rude.
Yeah,
Oof. Well, I mean, that's huge, isn't it?
I mean, what a false promise. I mean, look, I
Yeah.
built up north of seven figures in my pension, and I'd intended not to spend it all because
Yeah.
you can only spend it all if you know the date of the expiry on your
Yeah.
birthday, right? And I don't know that, thankfully. So I'm going to end up leaving some money. So I need a different plan. So the concept that I have, which I've had for a
Mm.
long time now, is a special kind of pension called a SAS or a SSAS, which allows me to control that, to invite my grown-up children in and to start to plan in a
Hmm.
different, more inheritance tax efficient way. But that's way beyond the scope of a podcast. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I'm sowing seeds for people to decide which seeds they want to germinate and which seeds they want to just let them
Yeah.
go away on the wind. But getting control of your pension would be one. The
That's a
third one
huge
is
thing because that allows you then to leave your legacy in the family and not have it all taxed and the government be like, "Thank you for your contributions." Swipe.
well, yeah, well, it's 40%, right? And
Oh
it gives you
gosh.
greater protection. You're not fully protected. I wouldn't
Hmm.
want to say I'm giving a panacea for that, but
Hmm.
there
Bit
is,
greater.
and I've done lots of podcasts and webinars on this, so people could
Yeah.
find out. The third is what I call investments. So let's
Hmm.
call them markets. So
Okay.
wherever money or assets are bought and sold in
Hmm.
a liquid way, we call that a market. The market for cash, interest. The market for the stock market is it's usually growth, or
Hmm.
losses, but either way. The market for um, what else? Crowdfunding. It's a marketplace. The market to buy gold, it's a marketplace. Obviously, gold's just gone through $5,000 an ounce. I remember jumping up and down when it was $2,000 an ounce.
Mm.
$5,000 an ounce, which portends problems. When people are rushing to gold and it goes up to 5,000, never hit that figure before, ever, ever, ever. Highest figure in history, shit's gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I'm not saying
Oh,
what it is. I'm just saying something's gonna happen. You need to be on your feet and
yeah.
flexible and start to take control of your money because if you leave it to the mercy of markets, you will have a roller coaster ride which will make you feel sick, not fill you full of joy like you did when you were a teenager.
Yeah, yeah.
Not good when you're in your 50s and 60s or 70s, as people will discover, if all of a sudden the market's sending you on a roller coaster ride that you just don't want to be on. Okay, so
Interesting.
they're the three that most people have in their life and
Hmm.
get it wrong, so they don't become wealthy. In fact, people who have a home, a pension, investing without controlling all of them deeply with a plan, purposefully, they will not be wealthy.
Hmm.
But the
And that's
same
most
three assets,
people.
most people, 95% of the population do not become wealthy, right? It's only the 5% who take action with the three, and then they learn the other four. So what are the other
Mhm.
four? The
I thought you were going to quiz me then. I was like, oh.
I did tell you on the day, by the way, but no, number four is property, but not the house you live in, but property you build and own and control, which
Yeah.
generates a rental income for you. Whether it's commercial property, residential property, all sorts of language we could use on property. If you're interested in property, then that will be something to explore. And there are many better teachers than me about property, but property is a way to own an asset that throws off an income stream. And the way you begin to think about this is every asset has an income stream that's called something.
Hmm.
So you can almost start to say, well, not how much income have I got or how much recurring income have I got. It's a question I always ask. when people come to us for the first time. Can you tell me how much recurring income you've got in your life right now?
Mm, that's a much better question.
And you know what it normally is?
Zero. Yeah.
That's fine. Then we know the only way is up. So we then start to go, okay, do you want rental income in your life? Okay, if you want rental income, we need to buy an asset. So we need to do the
Mm,
what are your finances? I, what are you interested in? T, what's your time? If you overlay those things in a bit of a Venn diagram, you can get to a place where you can say the right kind of thing you should be looking at,
hmm
that strategy, that one or that one. And if they've got a pension and a limited company, we can bring all their pension into play. You can see
hmm
how all of this starts to
Yeah.
interconnect in a way that people don't see those connections for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like when I go and see people, well, they come to see me actually, but when I
Mhm.
see people, I do a CAT scan on them.
But
Uh,
of their wealth rather than their body.
yeah. So, for a wealth GP, so to speak.
Love
And
that.
and as but you have to assess people first, and that's the CAT scan. And my CAT scan goes zip, 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 zip. These are the things you might want to think about.
Mm,
And then you can decide, do you want to take action on it, ignore me altogether, or do you need some help? And most people, if we resonate, they want some help because they realize they can't do this on their own.
hmm
Anyway, number four, then property or property portfolio. Number five, a business with recurring income.
hmm
Not a business where you're trading time for money, you're clipping poodles, you're walking dogs. I don't know where I got that from. You're you're coaching, you're teaching people one-on-one.
Yeah.
That's not a business, that's a recurring income business. That's a business that's trading time for money. So how do you do that? Well, there's four different ways to create recurring income in a business, but we won't go there unless, that's another question for another day, maybe. The next one is intellectual property,
hmm
IP, where you're turning what you know, how you package it, repurpose it, deliver it in a way that creates a recurring income for you. And that includes, of course, memberships and subscriptions, which both you and I do. So, there's a common denominator that we've recognized there. And finally, number seven is joint ventures and collaborations. So when people run out of the T for time, or they don't have enough I, which might be information as well as interest,
Mm.
they can collaborate with others. And so that true collaboration of ethical entrepreneurship in action, creative collaboration comes in community. It doesn't come by randomly dragging people off streets. It comes in community when people
Yeah.
know, like, and trust each other. So anybody who's building a community has got the power to create the right environment for joint ventures to happen, not to promote them, to profit from them, but to enable them.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I enable. So there's a culture we have in Wealth Builders called who, not how. If you need to know how to do anything, somebody knows how.
Yeah.
They're a who. So like my GP, I know my specialists. And my specialists, like the knee surgeon or the brain surgeon or whatever surgeon, you've got to refer to them.
Mm.
You refer to others, completely, commission free, conflict free. Just these are great people, or somebody else they've already met them and go, yeah, they're really good people. Can we talk?
Yeah.
So creative collaboration. So there you go. So home capacity, pension, investing,
hmm
property portfolio, recurring income business, intellectual property, joint ventures and collaborations. Any
Boom.
combination of those, if you start to put a plan together, it will help you begin to craft a wealth building fortress that will not be subject to the trials and tribulations of a stock market,
Yeah.
volatile, this day or that day, you're protected. Not, you always have to be on it
Yeah.
because
There will
when
always be
things go
risk, but
down,
you can better balance. Yeah.
yeah, and of course you keep building
Yeah.
because if you've got recurring income, and your recurring income is more than you can spend, the ideal position, then you're reinvesting to build even more, whether it's this
Yeah.
massively diversified. So it works scientifically. It works if you've got the right FIT, and it works if you can get inside good communities where that sort of connection and collaboration is likely to happen.
Yeah. And because a lot of these questions that will come up, like you say, get inside communities where this is talked about so that people can get those questions answered easily in a way that makes sense. Because I think a lot of, like, potentially people are hearing this for the first time, um, but it might be just be that it's unfamiliar. They haven't learned this set of knowledge just yet. And so one thing that I did when I was, following up on this after you taught it was to read your book, The Wealth Code. And I'm now just on this podcast learning you've got two other books, so I'll go binge those as well. But I found, and this is for all my listeners, The Wealth Code is a really nice way of Kevin and was it Brad Sugars that you wrote it with?
Well, there's a story there. It's called the Wealth Coach.
Oh, sorry.
It's Wealth Code, but it's called the Wealth Coach. Brad Sugars is the founder of a business called Action Coach.
hmm
And Action Coach is the biggest franchise for coaching in the world. Talk about recurring income.
Yeah.
He's got 3,000 coaches paying 1,000, let's call it £1,000 or $1,000 a month.
Nice.
Go figure that one. Okay. So
Lovely.
Brad Sugars has got a coaching community called Action Coach here in the UK. And it's not run by him, it's run by two lovely people, Ian and Julie, who are clients of mine as well, which is great. And they wanted to add an element of where does the wealth piece come in when people are building their business?
Mm.
What's the end in mind? And he'd written a book in America, which is called The Wealth Coach, but it really wasn't suited for a UK audience at all. It just
Mm.
didn't fit.
Yeah.
So the owners of Action Coach UK asked me if I would write a new book because I didn't want to use somebody else's materials because they were all out of kilter really with our audience. So I wrote a new book, and Brad wrote 3 words in the book.
Ah. Just the foreword, was it?
No, no, no. Bradley L. Sugars.
Oh.
They're the only 3 words he contributed. But joking aside, it's good for me because it gives me, they promote the book and people read the book. And it is definitely called The Wealth Coach. And it's aimed at business owners, but it's sort of a story
Yeah.
between a brother and a sister, and their father dies, and then they're kind of in the mix of what are they? She's a business owner, he's an employee, and how do they both get on a wealth journey? Because a bit like my dad, and there was a sort of parallel there, he didn't leave them anything.
Yeah.
So there was no platform on which to build. They had to build it.
Yeah.
And the book teaches them how to build it, one for a business owner, one for an employee.
Yeah.
While
I
there
really
is a
liked that.
parallel with me, it's not my story, because the lady there in the book, she's a florist originally.
Yeah.
I'm not a
So
florist, and
she's trading time for money.
of
And then
course,
her brother is in a 9 to 5, but he's got a
yeah,
family, so his considerations are different and his time is different. I
yeah.
really liked that storytelling format because it gave you two real life examples that are very relatable. Everybody fits into one of those categories. And it shows you how, based on what their individual goals and motivations were for how they want to live their life in future, whether they've got family or whether they want to not spend as much time in the business or whether they want their employees doing more of the work
You
for
got it.
them.
You got it.
So I really liked, I'm a big, I love stories. So that really, really landed for me because it was just a really nice format to understand based on their individual motivations. So yeah, I would 100% recommend people go and read that book because it breaks down what you might say are more complex terms, but it puts them into real life stories and you can see, oh, that's the best fit for that person because of what they're looking for. But that wouldn't have been the best strategy for that person because they've got different motivations, like you were talking about the interest and fit and all of that. So it's a really nice way of explaining the different The different seven pillars of wealth, and actually
Yeah.
choosing which would be the best fit for you based on what you're looking to do later on in life.
Yeah, yeah, true. And that, which is again back to your reason why. So it's not all about just building wealth and leaving a legacy. It could be getting the work-life balance to live where you want.
Yeah, enjoying more time freedom now.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
not about being older, definitely not. So and you summarized that very nicely. So yeah, they're the seven. And there's a whole bunch of deeper thinking beyond that in something I've just created called the Family Wealth Fortress, which is the seven integrators, which is where
Oh.
you start to overlay a whole bunch of things and start to see the CAT scan really working. But and it really comes from the people who've already built success.
Hmm.
What I've noticed with successful people, successful in their career in business or in property, is they kind of slowly build a tangled web of complexity around themselves. Uh, and that the very sometimes the very freedom they crave gets hampered by the tangling of the web. You can imagine it, right? And it sort of cages them a bit, and they start to lose confidence about, and they ask questions like, should I do a family investment company or a trust? Should I do a SIP or a SAS? So they ask me what I call a tactical question.
Mm.
When the answer to the question doesn't give them clarity, the answer just gives them more confusion. I said, well, that's not the question.
Yeah.
Question is, what are you trying to achieve? And then let's see how things integrate, and then we'll know whether a SIP or a SAS is better for you because we know what your
Yeah.
what's your tax position, what's your legal position, what's your financial position now, where are you with your recurring income,
Yeah.
all sorts of different overlaps, the integrators as I call them. And once we do that, which takes about a year to do, to unweave all the complexity, you ever done that with a set of wires that have got, everybody does it with their not with their earphones when they used to have wire. They're always untangling them. And
Yeah.
so we spend a lot of time untangling. And then once we've untangled, we create a family charter for the next generation to follow. So
I
we're
love that.
almost creating a blueprint which gets tweaked over time, and we empower the next generation to almost take over the baton from the current parents. And then they're the baton holders for the next generation, and they become the baton holders.
Indeed. So in
So
this
it
way,
goes
you're
on.
trailing, was it becoming the trailblazer and setting all the things up now. So I don't think it's difficult necessarily. It might just be that you're learning a new skill and it's going to take a little bit of time to feel good or get better at that skill. And it's something like you were saying with the forest analogy that I really liked. This is something that you keep on doing. And as you know more, you do better and you improve it over the years because there'll be different things that come up, whether it's a better tax strategy or you decide to do to another pillar of
Yeah,
wealth. So it's definitely something that you improve over time, but start today.
yeah, quite right. I mean, anybody who would have a conversation, something can be improved.
Yeah.
There is nobody I've met that there's nothing that can be done. There's always something that can be done. So you don't have to worry about building the legacy if your focus is getting yourself to a place of sustainable, dependable income. So you're not trading time for money and being worn out
Mm.
or feeling insecure. So you want to secure your own oxygen mask first, and that's what you do on airplanes, isn't it? You secure
Yes.
your own oxygen before you help others. So
Yeah.
your own oxygen mask on first, and find some find somebody you resonate with. Find a coach, a guide, somebody to give you a distinction that will get you going because most people can't find the distinction on their own.
Yeah.
They're looking here.
Absolutely. And there's a
And
lot of
for
people that
me,
only look in their next month or in their next quarter and they're just looking at their sales. And I think this is such an important conversation around recurring revenue because those clients who, let's say they pay in full for the year, well, that's awesome to give you that cash in that particular month, but it's not building your recurring revenue over time. And so it gives you that like that, that quick high, the short-term buzz, but it's not going to give you that long-term sustainability. So hopefully this conversation is making you see things a little bit differently to how can we secure more recurring revenue over time, but also how can that go longer and further into the future, if not, for life as well. So it was really, really important and valuable
I
conversation.
recognize the difficulty with business owners who are trading time for money because it's hard. You can't just switch. You go cold
Mm,
turkey and switch from an hourly rate to a recurring income membership program. You've got to build that gradually and do small tests. And,
yeah, yeah,
and then try, if you've got zero recurring income, how could you get 5% recurring income? Not how
yeah.
do you switch it, how do you get 5%? So
Mm,
with some clients, I say, well, look, what's the number? Let's do a coaching example, right? So you're coaching people for a living, business coaching, other kinds of coaching, and you know your typical coaching charging. Say it's 1,000 a month for the sake of a number. Okay, then. So how many do you need to be? So all your bills are paid. Well, I need 5 of those. Okay, all right. Then. So once you've got your 5, why don't you offer the 6th one the opportunity to coach them for free in exchange for equity? Now
mm,
you're building a share of a business. Now you've got to choose them the right ones, or with somebody else, you could say, well, what I'd like to do is let's agree something over the next 3 to 5 years and build in, a recurring income for you, which is good for them and good for you. There's so many different ways
mm.
to test something that can create recurring income. And often recurring income in business is good for the consumer.
Yeah,
They would rather that.
yeah.
Like, I buy wine automatically online, right? So I willingly send money to somebody to send me wine.
That subscription's got you locked in.
So I don't have to go to the shop and buy it. Now, occasionally, if I'm in a shop, I'll have a little look, but I'm buying a bottle. I'm not buying a dozen bottles, because they're sent to me.
Mm.
And I've got this absolutely wonderful wine fridge, which can hold 155 bottles. And,
Is this what your fortress is for?
yeah. But I'm the only one who drinks it, right? So it stays there for a long time. But I like that, and I've got a buddy and we talk about wine and we share each other's wine and so on. So, but so I don't want anybody to think I'm an alcoholic. I'm not. I just enjoy a glass
You
of red
appreciate good
wine.
wine.
I
You're
do.
in
I
good company.
appreciate it. So, and only the weekend, never during the week. So it's all good. But I enjoy it. And when we go on holiday, we're looking to wine regions and wine tastings and other things like that.
Yeah.
So it's all good. And so there's always a way to test. And the only one I've struggled with, I've got one that I'm working with at the minute who's runs a butcher shop, very successful high-end butcher, and
Yeah.
we're meeting to try and how much of that butchery is coming into the shop and how much could be delivered online because people want fine cuts of meat if they're paying your prices. That there's a way to try and create some kind of subscription over that. I've got one client who I wasn't able to help with the recurring income, but I was able to do something which I'll tell you about. Funeral directors.
Ah, interesting.
How do you
Go on.
create recurring income from funeral directors? Yeah. Well, I haven't done that one yet, but we're having a meeting with that. But what we did do is we bought the funeral home with their pension pot, and now they're paying rent to themselves, and the rent that they get is completely tax-free. So we've turned an asset that was in the company paying corporation tax to an asset in their family's pension, which is now building the income for the next generation. So we
So
take,
just let me go back a second. They're paying themselves the rent that pays off the mortgage.
yeah,
And this is the stuff that people don't know. This was in the book, right? In the Wealth Coach. I think her name was Christine, possibly, or I don't know, the florist. She does this, doesn't she? She gets a warehouse, and because this was the first time I'd come across this, I
yeah,
think I read this
she,
page a couple of times.
yeah, she buys a warehouse, and so we're often looking to business owners and saying, under no circumstances, dear business owner, should you have a property in your business. No circumstance at all. Shouldn't be in there. needs to be out there because anybody who's looking to sell a business, nobody wants the property.
Yeah.
Also, you can't get what's known as BPR or business protection relief. So, in other words, you sell your business for an inheritance tax benefit. If you've got a lot of property in there, it doesn't count because it's an investment. So you've got to get it out of there. These are all
Mm.
complexities that
Yeah.
are beyond those people thinking of starting.
Yeah.
But you never know who's in the audience who might have a property in their business or even a property personally. Ideally, you don't want to own anything personally or in a business. You want it owned in a trust of some kind because then
Hmm.
you can control it, you can minimize the tax on it. But anyway, this is all
We're getting into the nuance.
we're getting deep and you're allowing me, so thank you for that. But let's circle back to basic principles because I think
Yes.
that we said earlier on with the lady that I'm working with, who's the Australian lady, says too many ladies beyond the eight ball, Kev. Is right. They're stuck, they're not seeing what they need to see.
Yeah.
So if there's any way to bring that into the light a bit more and
Yeah.
share a bit more, if you get some good feedback and people want to know more, I'll willingly share. I'm not angling for more customers. I'm really not.
No, well, no, I don't think that at all. And I really like that we went deep on that part because it shows the level of nuance that's based on individual situations and that everybody's situation is different. And also, you've got your own podcast that I came on a couple of weeks ago. And so, for people who want to, I'll also link it underneath here, but go check out the Wealth Builders podcast because there'll be things there, whether you want to learn more about pensions, whether you want to learn more about bringing more recurring income into your blue business, or I call it blue business, your business, or whether it's more about property. There's going to be so much on the Wealth Builders podcast that you can go binge and listen to now as well.
Yeah, very good. And we've done 300 and something episodes now, so there's
So there's plenty on there.
plenty of free resources there. Yeah.
We set a high bar. I think I'm only on about 75 myself, so I've got some catching up to do.
Yeah, but you've got age on your side.
Thank you so, so much, Kevin. This has been absolutely awesome. If there's one thing that you could leave for the listeners who, a lot of my audience are sort of between 10K to 50K a month. So there's some people who are already above seven figures, some who are multi six figures a year, some who are building to their first six figures. And as we've said about our complementary skill sets, I help people to get that cash in, build more money within the business. But where you really come in is helping them to keep that money and get their money making money. So for the female entrepreneurs who are listening, and let's say that they are new or haven't much looked into, they might have a good amount of money coming into the business, but hadn't considered where to get started on actually really building that legacy. What would you say is the one thing that you'd like to leave them with?
Yeah, well, I'm going to circle back to the story I told of my father, which is whenever you realize you've got a business and somebody's depending on you, you need that money coming in, not just you. Protect your family. Do that bit first. It's the most boring bit. It's probably not the least bit exciting, but make a will, get your power of attorney. If you're a sole practitioner, make sure you've got maybe a bit of life cover, put it into trust, so that if something happens to you, the wealth that you'd intended to create in your business becomes into fruition because you protected yourself. Now, as soon as you're successful in your business with recurring income, you switch all those things off, leave the legals in place. You don't need the insurance anymore. So as boring as it is, I would start with protecting the family you've already got.
Mm. I really, really love that. And especially when we're talking about building your legacy, it has to be there, doesn't it? It has to start at home with you, your core family unit, yeah, your closest to you. Because if we really want to build this legacy, and we talk on this podcast about, creating generational change, that's got to start first at home before you've got that framework in place and that thing that you can, the baton to hang down
Yeah.
two generations after. So that, and I loved that you said this, so that you can have your face on the wall in four generations to come.
There you
Thank
go.
you so much for like sharing all of your knowledge. This has been a much longer podcast than I planned, but you've shared absolute gold, and I really, really appreciate your time, Kevin. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And good luck to everybody out there in She Scales community.
Thank you. And for everyone else, I'll see you inside the next episode. And I'll leave all of the links so that you can go find Kevin, find the Wealth Builders Instagram or anywhere else on social media. I'll also link his podcast underneath so you can go binge more resources as well. Thank you for your time, Kevin. And I'll see you everybody in the next episode. Toodaloo.